Well, thank you very much, Robert, for the introduction, and thank you for being here this evening. So we've all had excuse the pun, but a taste of mindful eating already this evening with the raisin exercise, and I'm always amazed at how such a simple practice can help enhance our awareness and build on our meditation and our mindful practice. And so I'm going to be talking about mindful eating this evening, specifically the course which I'll be running here soon with the Dorset Mindfulness Centre. The course is called MB Eat, and that stands for Mindfulness-Based Eating Awareness Training. And the training was born from a series of psychological studies that investigated and looked into the relationship that we have with our eating, and namely why our connection to this very fundamental task or act of eating can and does become very difficult for people, and it can become very disjointed for many as well. We all eat mindlessly at times, and that's simply part of the normal experience of eating. And when we think that on average we make about 200 to 300 food choices every day, what we have for our meals, what we choose for our snacks, what we might order in a restaurant or buy at the supermarket. And the more difficulty that people have with making those choices and with their relationship to food, research suggests that these people are much more likely to eat mindlessly throughout their lives, or at least choosing foods in response to emotional triggers or situations that might actually not have much to do with genuine nurture and care for the body, either psychologically or physically, but still feeling this sense of struggle or conflict with these food choices, and that's a huge burden for anybody to take on day by day. So the MBE course was developed by a psychologist called Jean Christella over in the States, and she and her research team wanted to develop a series of methods, practices, techniques as well, to help people free themselves from some, if not all, of these eating-based struggles. Jean is a long-term mindfulness practitioner herself, and she wanted to use her research or her mindfulness practice within her research, and she did this whilst working with her friend and colleague at the time, John Kabat-Zinn, whilst at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. So, to explain mindful eating a little bit more clearly, mindful eating is flexible eating. It's eating for enjoyment. It's eating in a much more balanced way for what the body needs, and it's eating with the balance that feels freer and feels more comfortable, and also allows for a fair amount of fun, rather than that sense of fear, anxiety, worry that a lot of us display when choosing foods to eat, but maybe have actually taken for granted. And people come to MBE looking for guidance and looking for help, feeling that there is a much more kinder and compassionate way to eat. Similar to maybe how we ate as young children, when food was an opportunity to refuel and to enjoy food for what it was, simply food. Sometimes people come to mindful eating looking to lose weight, whether that's 0.5 stone, 3 stone, 10 stone. But as much as the issue is about releasing themselves from their pain and the burden of being in conflict many times a day about what to eat, or alternatively that feeling of giving up, that feeling of I'm just going to eat it anyway because I'm tired of feeling like this, that sort of mentality. But knowing that they are actually not helping themselves physically or mentally. It is worth pointing out that the MBE course, it's not a diet club necessarily. Yes, the course does look at diet culture and what it means to overeat or undereat, but mindful eating is focused much more on developing a relaxed, unrestricted relationship to food and eating, and often one of the byproducts of this can be weight loss, or for some, weight gain. So in our food abundant society, we do struggle now even more with our biology, which predisposes us to override our natural hunger and satiety cues. We all have preferences for higher fat, higher sugar, higher salted food because these were the foods that our ancestors sought. They needed them to help build energy and, of course, to survive. Our biology inclines us to actually want to eat these foods as well for reward, for comfort, and to take care of ourselves and our loved ones, just as our ancestors did. And there is nothing about this way of eating that is wrong or inappropriate. And there is no culture in the world that doesn't use food for celebration, or to comfort, or to be used at emotional times. So how do we negotiate that beyond biology and keep that very much part of our lives, but also keeping in balance with what is healthy and what is good for our well-being? And this is something that the MBE course focuses on. Early research of the Mindful Eating course program revealed that a high number of people will overeat and increase their food consumption when feeling stressed, when feeling emotional, anxious, fearful, tired, and also when happy and socialising. And I'm sure this is something that we can probably all relate to. However, those participating in studies who demonstrated this feeling of beating themselves up over their food choices, they were the ones who were getting, let's say, into more difficulty around food and food choices, whether with weight gain, weight loss, or even displaying potential early eating disorders. The higher proportion of this group was women, but men do also fall into this struggle as well. In an early study, participants were invited to take part in an experiment. Men and women, some from a dieting and restriction background, and some from a non-dieting and non-restriction background. And during the experiment, their anxiety levels were heightened by watching a scary film. And after the film, they were invited to enjoy a buffet lunch. Interestingly, all the participants recorded or said that they felt that they ate significantly more food at the lunch, and this was due to their heightened anxiety levels. That was interesting in itself. What was more interesting was that the non-dieting, non-restricting group didn't report a problem with this increased food consumption. However, the dieting restricting group, they reported that they felt guilty, they felt angry, they felt frustrated, they felt upset that they had eaten more food. Therefore, the MBE course, the Mindful Eating course, looks very closely at this inner food critic, the voice that tells us that we've failed, the voice that tells us that we've messed up, we've done it again, sometimes referred to as the inner food police. and using mindfulness to bring awareness to these internal struggles and thoughts can really help with our food and eating choices. In addition to these internal struggles that we have around food and eating, there are lots of external rules and guidelines that dictate to us what we should eat, how much we should eat, whether a food is healthy, how many portions of per set food should we have a day. And into this mix comes the diet culture that we are all faced with on a daily basis. And these external cues can and do have a big impact on the ongoing pressure and difficulty that many of us feel around food and eating. And they disconnect us from what we are really feeling right now, when we really should be turning into whether we are genuinely hungry or whether actually what we're feeling is tiredness or maybe a little bit of sadness. And honouring these feelings with kindness and compassion rather than choosing food based on what the TV advert told us we should eat or the magazine article. So by incorporating mindfulness into our lives, including mindful eating, those external cues that we are subjected to, they starting to loosen their hold on us. And over time, and with awareness, we can start to focus on what the body is telling us, regardless of what we've read or what we've heard or what we've seen. And with this awareness comes a much greater appreciation for our own personal needs and what is good for our well-being. And by responding to our food thoughts and choices, rather than reacting to them, we can start to ask questions around our food, such as, is this what I want to eat? Will this food give me the nurturing care that I need now? Will this food satisfy my hunger? Maybe I only need to eat half of this now, or maybe I don't actually need to eat at all. So mindful eating is about letting go of the rule book and to stop following the diet guru industry and instead tuning in to the body's natural hunger and satiety cues. However, some people do worry that without these strict controls in their lives, especially if they come from years of following diet guidelines, that they will overeat. They'll lose control. They might eat all the cake rather than the one slice. Or on the opposite side of that, they actually might eat too little. People might worry that their health and well-being will be sacrificed because they have only themselves and their inner wisdom to follow, and they're not sure whether they can actually trust themselves. This mentality is understandable and perfectly reasonable. However, mindful eating participants have demonstrated that over time, their relationship to food does improve. Binges and food restrictions lessen, and their sense of health and well-being increases as they become much more aware of their hunger and satiety cues. And they start to choose food more wisely based on both satisfaction and health. And they start to really taste and savour the foods that they choose, whilst also appreciating the journey that their food has travelled to get to them. So I'd like to close this evening by just saying that mindful eating is accessible to everybody. And the course can help anybody who is simply looking to get more from savouring their food or slowing down their eating speed. And it can also help individuals who might be displaying more difficult relationships to food in the form of eating disorders or maybe struggling with diabetes. It's really for anyone who wants to establish a positive, sustainable and healthy relationship to food and eating, whilst also strengthening their mindfulness practice. Now, at this point, I'd love to be doing a chocolate mindfulness practice with you, but I'm very conscious that we have had a lot of lovely practices this evening, so I'd just like to finish there. But there are some leaflets at the back, and by all means do come and ask any questions, whether it's about the course or just about mindful eating generally, and if I can help in any way, then do let me know. Thank you.